Welcome to the Therapy Show podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Mustard. In each episode, I interview a seasoned and knowledgeable talk therapist from the counseling world to glean valuable insights, techniques, and tools that you can apply to your practice and your life. And if you're considering a career in the counseling field or just want to hear about what it's like to be a talk therapist, then this is the podcast for you. Today on the show, Reese and Valisa Palmer talk about helping couples heal with marriage therapy. They also talk about their paths to becoming marriage and family therapists, the models and frameworks they use in therapy, what it's really like to work together because they really do see couples as a couple, and how they separate the professional from the personal and vice versa. Reese is a clinical psychotherapist specializing in marriage and family therapy. He is also a Christian counselor, an entrepreneur, a family life specialist, and a relationship guru. He helps children, teens, adults, couples, and families with many different challenges, such as depression, anxiety, trauma, relationship problems, infidelity, and serious conflict. He is a very busy and proud dad to Jessica, Vaughn, Bryson, and Bryant Jacob, as well as a devoted husband to Valisa, the absolute love of his life. Valisa is a Christian counselor, life, career, and relationship coach who has helped hundreds of individuals improve their lives and create success that is God-centered and well-balanced. She knows how important it is to remain hopeful, encouraged, and to understand your purpose in this life. She feels blessed to have found her calling as a professional counselor and life coach, and she is truly passionate about making a difference in the lives of others. This is such a fun interview with two truly genuine and authentic therapists. We hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to this episode. I am super excited to have two incredible talk therapists on the show today. They are a married couple who work together, and I find their story to be really interesting and really cool and really exciting for other marriage and family therapists out there. So would you guys please introduce yourselves and tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks for having us on, Lisa. I really appreciate it. This is super exciting to have an opportunity to come on and talk about what we do, which is provide primarily counseling for families and couples. And I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I've been practicing for about 20 years here in South Carolina for the past 5 years. And I work exclusively, I would say exclusively just yet, but predominantly I work with married couples on different marital challenges and difficulties come up during the course of a marriage. And, frequently it's infidelity and other types of issues that may create challenges around intimacy and trust. And so that is truly my jam. I love working with couples, and I primarily used emotionally focused therapy to work with couples. And I'm super excited to be on and talk to you and your listeners a little bit more about that today.
Well, I'm excited to have you as well. And I didn't say your name, which is Reese Palmer, and you are here today with your wife, Valisa. So hi, Valisa.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Hey, how are you, Lisa? It is so nice to be here. I'm also equally as excited. And this is just a wonderful opportunity. I'm super excited. Thanks for having us.
Oh my gosh, you're welcome. I was super curious to learn how you two decided to work together and maybe share a little bit. I don't know, Reese, if you want to go first and share, how did you decide to become a talk therapist? I love to ask that question because we all have such unique journeys to this work.
Okay. Well, I'll answer the first question or the last question first, which is how did I decide to become a talk therapist? Wow, that journey started well over 20 years ago. I was actually working in corporate America in marketing and communications, and I really loved what I do. I actually still really love doing video production and voiceover work, and that's what I did for a number of years. But I really had a strong desire to really help people. I was doing a lot of volunteer work. I was working a lot with my church at the time, and working with children and youth coaching. And it was just, a wonderful experience. It was very gratifying to really help people and see people do better and really be able to really live a fulfilling and happy life. And so just to be involved with people in that way was really gratifying to me. But I realized pretty quickly that if I really wanted to make an impact, a more significant and long-lasting impact, that I needed to have formal education. So I had started an MBA program, but I withdrew from that once I realized that I really didn't want to go in that direction anymore, that my true heart's desire was in the helping profession. And so I went back to my university, Southern Connecticut. Woohoo, go Owls. I went back to Southern Connecticut State University. I'm from Connecticut originally. And I went to a graduate open house and went to all of the different booths and came across the marriage and family therapy booth and sat there and just listened to the staff and the faculty talk about marriage and family therapy. At that point in early 2000, I really didn't know much about marriage and family therapy. So I was looking more towards perhaps a psychology master's degree or social work. But I mean, when I sat with those folks, the marriage and family therapy theory, the systemic approach, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It just so resonated with me. And I reflected on my own life experiences and my family of origin stuff. And it really resonated with me, my own core values. And I never looked back after that. I registered that summer and went on ahead and started the program and completed my degree in 2003.
Wow, that's awesome. It's interesting how you kind of, you were going down a path, going a certain direction, and then, something within you was like, no, that's not your path, Reese. You really want to help people. You really want to serve. And so that's really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was pretty much what got me started. And then obviously after that, getting licensed, I started with my licensure initially in Massachusetts, because at that time you could get your license in Massachusetts before getting your clinical hours, which are required as well, your direct client contact hours. That changed afterwards. But so I got licensed in Massachusetts, then in Connecticut. And then when Valisa and I met and got married, I actually relocated to New Jersey and got licensed in New Jersey. And then we moved to South Carolina in 2014. And so I got licensed here and started the practice as a solo practice, Palmer Counseling and Consulting, and then grew it over the last 2 years into our group psychotherapy practice. And my wife is one of our wonderful clinicians here alongside me.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop. That is awesome.
I just find it really interesting that you guys are in the same field and now you work together. I know we'll kind of get into that a little bit more as we go along. But Valisa, what brought you into this work?
Yeah, that is a very interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly, living this life and walking the journey. I, of course, saw my husband working in the field and just seeing some really great work with him working with our fellow church congregants and helping some of our friends even. I even remember one of our close relatives, doing a marriage counseling session and saying, wow, you know what? This is really great work. Like, to sit here and sit alongside someone and help them process through different things that are very difficult. Wow, that's pretty interesting. And so I'm the oldest child. I'm like that mediator in the family. So I've always been that go-to advice person, like, oh, what do you think I should do? And so I've always been, not that I'm nosy or anything, but I've always been interested in other people's, I guess, stuff, just their relationships, their patterns, their behaviors. And I really want people to change. I really want to help them. So it's always more, back then it was like, well, you should do this and you should do that. And so just watching Reese kind of not give advice, but to just ponder some things and to actually put the counseling techniques to work, I thought that was just fascinating. Mm-hmm. So at the time, when Reese and I met, I was working for Verizon. And I basically had a career with them for almost 20 years, 19 and a half years. And as I'm sitting there thinking, do I really want to go another 11 years with this company? Or do I want to follow another path? At the time, we had just become foster care parents. So we had, I'd say the youngest was about 8 that came to live with us. He stayed for about 3 years until he was 12. And just having children come in and out of our lives that struggled, that had various difficulties, and just wanting to help and wanting to be that change for our community. I thought, I should probably think about some formal training. At the same time, our oldest son, who's now 21, struggled in middle school with ADHD issues, just a lot of transitional issues going on. And so I stayed at the school counselor's office, just sat in her chair, bawling at one point and just trying to figure out how I could help him. And I'm thinking to myself, I need to be more empowered. So I started finding out about educational resources. They have IEPs and 504 accommodations. And I'm thinking, I need to know more about this so I can help my child succeed. So I went back to school. I took one course, and then I talked to my husband. I talked to my mom. I said, hey, you know what? I'm thinking about maybe going back to pursue a graduate master's degree in counseling. What do you guys think? And they're like, yes, go for it. You can do this. You'd be so great. And I'm thinking, but I have a telecom background. Like, how can I even transition? What can I do? And Reese was like, you got this. And so he was like my biggest support. My mom was one of my biggest fans. She's the babysitter. He's the, taking over everything at home at that point. And I went back to grad school. And so what's really funny is my last semester rather of grad school, I found out I was pregnant with my 5-year-old son, our 5-year-old son. Oh. So I'm in my last semester of grad school. I'm working 40 hours a week at Verizon, night shift, midnight shift. I have my internship. That's another 30 hours a week trying to complete the hours. And plus I still had classes. So I'm like trying to do it all, be super mom, go back to school. But I'm like, I'm going to make this work. Mm-hmm. So that was part of my journey, just that resilience in the beginning. But I started in school counseling. And at that time, we're still doing foster parenting. And then we decided we're going to move to South Carolina. So we transitioned to 2 more kids and just, parenting all over again, because we have 2 older children too. Mm-hmm. So our children are 5, 7, 21, and 30. So we're crazy. We're nuts. But, being parents to 2 different generations of kids, it's been wonderful. And it's been a lot of lessons that we've learned. And so the counseling has really come in handy when it comes to parenting and just being more informed. And so that was part of my journey. But, just to kind of final that, I was a school counselor for the last 5-6 years. I've loved it. And so transitioning into private practice, we had to make a tough choice, leaving the school system, which is every other week I'm getting paid, and also benefits coverage for our family, and now entrepreneurship and private practice. And I am so excited, Lisa. This is just such a wonderful new beginning for me. Again, it's like my 4th new beginning in my careers, but I'm also a career coach and a life coach. So I've picked up those tools along the way. So yeah, I'm a licensed professional counselor, career coach, and life coach. So I love it. Love it.
Wow, I didn't realize that. So I just want to give a plug for those who are listening, because are you guys only you're licensed in a couple of states, but currently, if you are a listener and you're wondering, can I work with this power couple? Can I become one of their clients? Can you talk about how that would work? Because Valisa is a life coach, so that means she can probably work with people anywhere.
I can, because the ICF, that's the only governing organization. So for now, that is something I can do, is provide services in all states and sometimes overseas as well. I just have to check the country. Mm-hmm. But as far as my LPCA, I am licensed here in South Carolina. And we're Christian counselors as well. So we also can, work with people on that genre as well.
Okay. What about you, Reese?
Yeah, I'm licensed also in South Carolina. I'm also licensed in New Jersey still. As far as working with us here, if any of your listeners are South Carolina residents, then that's no problem. They can give us a call directly, or they can navigate to our website and fill out an info form that comes right to our email mailbox that we check every day very regularly. Mm-hmm. And we respond within the same day. So typically we can get folks in pretty quickly. A lot of people decide to work with Valisa and I because they really like the idea of having both perspectives of the male and the female in the room. I think it really helps with feeling safe and feeling that, your perspective, whether it be as the husband or the male or the female, that your position, your perspective is going to be validated. And so a lot of people call, and when they see our website and they see us on the website and know that we do work together as a husband and wife team, we also work individually and do our own work with clients. But some folks really like that idea, and they call us up and say, hey, I want to see Mr. and Mrs. Palmer. And so that's the best way to do it, is to navigate to our website, and all of the information is there. Or you can just give us a call at 803-722-4975 and go ahead and schedule a time to come in. We'll do a short phone intake with you, and get you scheduled. If you're in another state and you're interested, we are actually in the process now of learning what each state requires for doing telemental health online. And so certainly feel free to give us a call. We'll find out which state you're in, what requirements we need to be able to legally practice and provide counseling to you in your home state. And we'll go from there. It'll require a little bit more legwork for us, but we're happy to do that. We're just really super motivated to work with folks who really want to do the work, and they really want to put in the effort and the time that it takes to create the relationship or create the life that they really want to have. So please feel free to give us a call, and we'll figure out a way to make it happen. If it can happen, we'll find a way.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great. So can you share a little bit about the framework or the theory that you prefer to work within? Because we've talked a little bit about this, and I think it's really an amazing model that you use.
Yes. So for couples, and also more so families and individuals, I pretty much use the same approach. Just to give you some of my educational background, the graduate program that I went through was a very classic, traditional marriage and family therapy, family systemic program. So the way that I've been trained is in family systems. So even when I'm doing individual work, I do a lot of, during my clinical interview with the person, a lot of background history. I want to learn about their family of origin. I want to know about relationships. I want to know about attachment figures in their lives that were important. When I hear about any types of trauma or any type of really painful life experiences, I get all of that information to really help me, kind of paint a really clear picture of the individual and what their presenting problems and challenges are. So that systemic approach is really helping me to understand, the environment that they came out of, their family of origin. That really helps me to get a sense of what type of attachment style they may have and what challenges they may have around relationships from that perspective. All of that is very consistent with my training. I also was trained as a certified Gestalt therapist. So I went for an extra 12 credits in my graduate program so that I could become a Gestalt therapist. And Gestalt is very similar to other experiential approaches, such as Carl Rogers' approach, Rogerian, humanistic therapy approaches. This is really about helping the person truly become in contact with their emotions and understand how different experiences that they've had in their life impact their emotions. And sometime when those emotions or those memories or experiences are really painful, we kind of disconnect from them. And that can cause what's called oftentimes blocks. And we're not sure why we're stuck in a certain area. So I really like to help couples and individuals and families understand how some of those things can, create difficulty moving forward and healing from past painful experiences. So I definitely use my family systems approach in every counseling session. I definitely use a lot of Gestalt and experiential approaches and interventions. And then, a lot of emotionally focused therapy. And so that's my real go-to with couples, especially in working with around attachment and helping them to understand what type of injuries and what type of trust breaches they may have had that are causing the challenges with communication and intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
So EFT is really my go-to with working with couples and families.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's incredible. As you were sharing about emotionally focused therapy or EFT, and how I've done some training within that, and so I know that asks the couple to get very vulnerable at times in front of each other. And I'm a big believer in finding a therapist that you feel safe with. Allowing your vulnerabilities to show, that someone that you feel really safe with. And might just be a plug, and it is, and that's totally cool, because I want you guys to know that when I met Reese for the very first time, I had that sense. I felt very safe with, and I've never even met you in person. I've just talked to you on the phone and seen you on Zoom. And so whatever, you have that, I don't even know what it is. You have that about you, about your personality, about your spirit, that's very caring and very genuine. And, after many years of being in this field, I can share that is probably the most important qualities are finding that therapist that you feel that you feel safe with, and that you feel they have your best interest at heart. And I know I don't know Valisa very well, but when you get that sense about somebody, that clinical gut instinct, I'm just gonna, share with the listeners that you guys really, you don't just, you don't just, say it, you live it. And that is really inspiring. So thank you for just being who you are, and, doing this work. So I'm really excited to kind of dive a little bit deeper and talk some more about, and I would ask you to maybe, if you have some examples of how you've helped couples, as we talk, you can feel free to
Sure.
pepper them in. But what is it like? Okay, I kind of want to set up the space when you are working with a couple and Reese is there and Valisa is there and the couple is there. What does that look like? What's going on in the room?
Sure, sure. Typically, the way we have the room set up is that Valisa and I sit side by side, and we have the couple sit side by side, or facing each other on sort of an angle, so that they can see each other and they both can see Valisa and I. Generally, I take the lead. Valisa's still kind of training in EFT and getting to know the approach a lot better, but she is a quick study, and she's been wonderfully working to learn more and more about how to really support couples in this process. And so what we do initially is we do, as I said before, a very thorough history, and we really use that time to join. And I just want to also just offer a heartfelt thank you for that wonderful compliment that you gave. And we work really, really hard, Lisa, to help our couples and our clients feel comfortable and safe, because it's very, very important and oftentimes very difficult decision to come into therapy and acknowledge that you've been struggling with something and there's a lot of pain there, and to make yourself vulnerable to come in and initially to begin to spill your guts to a complete stranger, it's very daunting. And Valisa and I have been on the other side and sat on the couch too, and have had our own counseling individually as well as a married couple. So we definitely know what it feels like to be vulnerable and to be on the other side of the counseling equation. So we work really, really hard just to be ourselves, to be genuine, to really demonstrate that we're really there for them, and we want to really know them as individuals and not just their struggles and problems. We really want to know as much about them as possible. And so we spend a lot of time doing that. And then so we kind of just sort of tag team and go back and forth. Like I'll ask some questions that I'm interested in when I'm doing an initial assessment. And then Valisa will jump in, and we typically kind of scribble our genograms in our notes as we're asking these questions, and creating that as we're asking questions. And so Valisa will then just chime in with some questions that she's interested in. Sometimes I'll start with one of the partners and get most of the information, and then Valisa will jump in and pick up with the other partner and get their background, the same information, family dynamics, what the household composition was, those types of, who were their primary attachment figures, where did they go for comfort and safety, those types of things. And we just sort of kind of play off each other in the session. And we really just try to be present with the couple and track what's going on. And so it's great to have a second pair of eyes in the room, because I might be, for example, focused on something that I'm working with the husband, and, we're kind of engaged in, and then Valisa is actually watching the body language and watching, the cues from the wife, and so she'll pick up on that, and she'll bring that into the discussion as well. And so it's great because, I could be really, present with the husband, but we're not losing the wife. And a lot of the nonverbal and all the other cues, Valisa's tracking all of that and watching it as well, and vice versa. So when she's, working and she's saying something to the couple, or maybe directing it to one of the partners, I'm also watching the nonverbs and paying attention to things. So it is amazing just to have another set of clinical eyes in the room that are watching, and it just creates, I think, a much richer clinical experience for them, and it makes it a lot safer. So that's kind of from my perspective, what it feels like and looks like when we're working together. Valisa can probably chime in with her side.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another thing is that we play off of each other. As I work with Reese more and more, I get comfortable with his style of counseling. It's no different from our relationship where we actually kind of are present, not only with the couple, but with each other, and
Hmm.
listening to what Reese is saying and piggybacking off of what, he's contributing to the conversation. I'm kind of picking up on that. And then sometimes I might want to take something in a different direction if I'm curious about something that Reese may not have thought of. So I chime in with that, just letting them know this is a judgment free zone. You guys are safe with us. That's absolutely a wonderful, wonderful thing to add, that we want them to feel safe in this room. What happens in this room stays in this room type of thing. We're all familiar with that.
Mhm.
But to make sure that when they come in, they are vulnerable and they're able to just be truthful, to be honest. And so a lot of times when you are honest, you're able to get past the secrets and the darkness that you're hiding, even from your mate. Even if you both may have known it, you may not have discussed it, something that's really, really difficult. We can actually feel safe to discuss it and unpack it in the session. So I also think it's really great, how we start off too. We really take a thorough history and help them to remember why they fell in love. Sometimes those conversations don't come up for years about what drew me to you. Like, what was it about you? Was it your eyes? Was it your smile? Was it your wonderful, laid back attitude that now drives me crazy? But, back then, that's what I fell in love with. I love the fact that you took charge when I needed you to. But now it's like, come on, you're being a hog. So, what, remembering those wonderful things that made you fall in love is a really great thing that we try to do with them. That history is so important. And
Hmm.
so I'm just definitely wanted to add that. Yeah, that's a little bit of how we play off of each other.
I also think that one of the things that anybody that knows us personally, Lisa, knows that Valisa and I are complete cut ups. I mean, we are wacky. And that's one of the things that I think that have kept us so close over the years. We're wacky. We
Mhm.
love to laugh. We have both have like I think just killer super senses of humor. We just always like to have fun.
Oh,
We
and
both
Lisa, we can dance like both of them. I don't know if you know like this about Reese, but he's like the Danny Terrio of the 2000s and the 90s. He's like really, really good on the dance floor. And I'm like, this guy can dance better than me. Like, who does that? So yeah, we're definitely cut ups.
we- I think that comes through in the sessions, that we have fun with each other, we laugh, and so I think we're aware at all times that we're modeling that for our couples and for the clients that we are seeing. Because we do see some individuals together as well, and so I think that it's really important that they see a couple that is working together, that's just trying to stay connected on all levels, and we're also pretty transparent about things that we've gone through. We don't
Yeah.
get into the gory details, because we don't want our clients giving us therapy, but we do, I think, try to maintain a level of authenticity and genuine, and not like, oh well, I'm the clinician and we've got it all figured out and our marriage is perfect. And we try really not to give that vibe off at all, because at the end of the day, we're all human and we're trying to do the best that we can to make a happy marriage and stay connected and keep the intimacy alive. So I think that's another really good thing that Valisa and I are able to do, is just be very genuine and authentic and really have fun. And I know this probably sounds a little cliche, but we both really are people. We
Yeah.
love people and we just kind of get so engaged in their story, and we just feel truly honored that people allow us into their lives in such an intimate way.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Sometimes it's so surreal when I look to Reese like, wow, we're really doing this. Like, this is really our dream.
Yeah.
And it is a little cliche. Like, this is our dream work. And something that I feel called to do. Like, I feel called to do this work, with people, not for them, but definitely don't want to work harder than they are.
Mhm.
But to work alongside of them is such an honor and a privilege to serve. And so I think that's at the base of, who we are. We really want to serve people and help them to grow, just like some hard lessons we've had to learn. And you know what? We do want to let them know it's hard out here. It's so difficult sometimes to just navigate life and adulting. We like, do we really we're adults, but we really would love to go back and be kids. But
Mhm.
life is tough. and you do need a hand every now and then. So it's an honor to do this service.
Well, if I was in the market for a marriage and family therapist, I would be calling you guys, because you really do. You're saying all of this, well, I'm also a marriage and family therapist. So I'm over here, like, I just want to like hug you through the Zoom and like high five you, and definitely want to see Reese's dance moves. I gotta check those out. But, it's just, I joke around with my other LMFT cohort that I went to grad school with, like, oh, it's like LMFTs totally get each other. I mean, not that we don't get LPCs, Valisa, but you're doing this MFT work now. It's a very different model. And we have our own, we almost have our own language. We have our own theories. And I'm not saying that people can't come in and, be a part of it, but it really is a special field. And you're right. It is such an honor to sit with families and to sit with couples and to be with them as they navigate how they want to move forward with living their best lives, as in their marriages, in their families. And so I totally get what you guys are saying. And I'm like over here just like, oh, this is awesome.
Yay!
I'm gonna have to come over and just like, we'll have to like come over and talk about this stuff more. But this episode of The Therapy Show is sponsored by my favorite fitness apparel, Zaya Active. I recently discovered Zaya Active when I went looking for high quality and premium workout clothes. Just like those luxury store and catalog brands, yet I wanted a budget-friendlier price tag. I love this brand because, number one, I live a very active lifestyle. I hit the gym about 5 days a week, plus I love to go for runs and long walks, which I consider to be my very important self-care and podcast listening time. Plus, the endorphins I get from my workouts keep me in my happy mental space. The clothes stay put, I'm not constantly pulling on my leggings or tugging on my sports bras, and they accentuate me in all the right places. And number two, when I work from home, I love to be comfortable in leggings, also known as yoga pants, and a tank top. Plus, I can transition to running out the door to pick up our girls or run errands while still looking put together in my athleisure styles. My favorite workout leggings are the light and tights, and my favorite everyday wear are the everywhere pants. I literally wear them everywhere, every day. I can even wear them to business meetings or client consultations. I can dress them up or down easily. Want to learn more? Head over to lisamustard.com and click on the Activewear page. You can learn all about Zaya Active, the mission, the clothes, and see if they are a fit for you and your active life. From weight training to running to Zumba to yoga to CrossFit to bar to walking to tennis, Zaya Active has you covered. And don't forget about the active men in your life. They have an amazing men's line, plus clothes for active kids too. That's Zaya like papaya active. So see my site for all the details. I am curious. Because this is like, I was keeping me up the other night. I was like, how do they separate their professional from their personal lives? Like, how do you guys do that when you work together in this field?
Yeah.
Oh, can I just answer that? Because let me just say this. I actually, the opposite, Lisa, I crave for him to come home and say, can we just talk about what just happened? Like, that was intense, or help me process this, because I'm wondering why did you choose to go in that direction? Like, what is there a theory behind that? Because again, I'm still kind of walking through a lot of this, the systemic approach as opposed to the individual approach of things. And so he's like, I'm pooped. I'm spent. And I'm like, no, we gotta process this. He's like, I'm done. And so, so it is a point where, as clinicians, you definitely have to take care of yourself, and you have to stop and check out and check, not just check in with each other, but check out, because it can totally, overtake you. Like, you definitely need to unplug is what I'm saying. But because I'm learning and I'm so on fire and excited, he's like, okay, just give me a minute and then we'll come and reconvene. But I kind of long for a little more. And, so you got to help me with that, Reese, a little bit. So I'll let you kind of say from your end, but I definitely kind of want more and more and more. And he's like, okay, wait, I need a break.
Yeah. I mean, just to piggyback on what Valisa said, she is really good at gently reminding me that, hey, dude, you have 20 plus years doing this. And I'm still a newbie to some degree. I've been doing this about 6 years now, and I'm super excited. And it's just like, I get it. I know what it feels like when you're learning something new and you're just really excited about it. And you just want to know like every nook and cranny and nuance of it. And, it's just hard for me to do that at 10, 11 o'clock at night after a long so, but she does remind me of that. And I think I've gotten better of being sensitive that, my wife really wants to know, where my mind is sometimes in the sessions. And, because sometimes she's tracking me and she knows kind of from the theoretical approach that we're using EFT, there's a roadmap to EFT. So she kind of knows I'm doing the 5 steps. They call it the EFT tango. So she kind of knows what I'm doing, but then I'll maybe say something and she'll go, wait a minute, I was tracking you. I was good up to this point, but I didn't know where you were going with that. Can you help me? So I feel like I've gotten better at being able to kind of, because for me, I have to actually go back in my mind into the session, and not just into the session, into that moment where I said a certain thing, or it was a specific, way that I was trying to help the couple, assemble their emotion and deepen it and what I was going for. And so I'll try to kind of picture in my mind where I was in the 5 steps of the EFT tango. And I'll say, okay, this is what I was doing at that moment. And she'll go, oh, okay, now I get it. It makes sense. And so I actually feel really good after it clicks with her, because I know that that's going to help us to be able to vibe off each other even better. So like, I'll be going down one path and she'll be tracking me so closely that she can literally chime right in and we'll be like jogging right next to each other and going in the exact same direction that we want the couple to go in. So I have learned more and more to be sensitive that, my wife's still learning. And so all that plays out in the session, so our energy's got to be good. If we just had a fight before the session, we've got to sit and get ourselves cleared. And, we pray every morning together. And so it's just to help, kind of, keep things as best we can, clear between us so that we both can enter the room, focused and grounded, because we want that time to really be focused on the couple that's sitting across from us. But it's a great question, Lisa. It does require a lot of work, and we try to be very mindful about it. But I do believe that we both do a very good job, that once we step in the room, we are completely focused on that couple, and we just get immersed in their experience and what's going on with them. And so we kind of lose ourselves at that point.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that term, the process of the process.
Yes.
Just always process. Like there's the process of the process of the process, just
Yeah.
continually going on. And I just wonder, like, I think it's a really interesting dynamic because Valisa's newer, and Reese, you've been doing this for, you said, 20 years, that there's that balance of all of that. I just think that's really neat. Do you feel as though, you kind of answered it just a little bit, but do you feel as though working together has changed your marriage and I'm going to assume yes, but I'm wondering what that process or that journey has been like, as you've worked together.
I'm going to say initially, I think back and I'm like, don't try to counsel me. Don't use your counselor voice on me. This is real. Like we got to really fight this thing out right now. And so like old school. So definitely kind of being mindful of, if we're going to be helpers of other people, we definitely have to model that, not only to our children and those that are close that we feel comfortable with. We're always wanting to be comfortable and let our hair down and just be who we are with each other. But because we're counselors and because, through that education, you literally are become a better person. I feel, going back to school, understanding parenting different. I was reading, Scream-Free Parenting, a really great book for me, just to, I wasn't raised that way. They would literally, yell and we listen and we do what we're supposed to do. And now it's more logic and calming down and trying to figure out what's going on. And so for this generation of kids, I feel like my education definitely helps me be a better parent. And so it's the same thing as a wife, and as a support or as a even lead sometimes on certain things like finances. Maybe I'm taking the lead and he's taking the lead in another area of our marriage. But the balance helps, and to understand each other. And so that's through counseling and through being counselors. So definitely, I feel it's improved our relationship. We've had to kind of sort through some difficult things and really understand each other in all these years that we've been married. And just having that knowledge has made our relationship more powerful and healthy.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with everything that Valisa said. I think that it's just sort of kind of like, it's almost like being newlyweds again, where you're kind of learning each other and you're kind of trying to figure out roles and who's going to be what, and arguing about how you fold the towels and stuff like that.
We fold them differently.
Yeah. I want to write my notes this way. Well, I need to do it this way, and we have learned that this is a new journey for us, and it definitely has helped us to be patient with each other, because one thing that I can say about our marriage is that we've always tried to do a lot of things together. We do have our separate interests, but we truly just genuinely enjoy each other. We're really best friends. We have fun together. We cut up. We just really enjoy each other. And so we thought, wow, how great would it be if we could work together? And it's so funny because we talked to some of our married friends and they're like, are you crazy?
Are you crazy?
I could never work with my husband, or I could never work with my wife. And, and I've had a couple of people say, well, God, we're going to pray for you. Because I was talking to a really good friend of mine from church, and he's like, we, my wife and I, we know that we can do certain things really, really, really well together, but working together on a day-to-day basis all day is just not one of them. So we agreed, and he's a business owner as well, that it's best for me to kind of run the business, and she'll be a trusted advisor from time to time. And he just chuckled and he said, but I admire you and Valisa for being able to do it together. And so, we take that as a compliment, and it's not without its rough patches and difficulties. And, but at the end of the day, we're committed not only to our relationship first and foremost in our marriage, but also doing really, really quality clinical work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing is we check each other every now and then, because, things come up and we are human. So just to be totally transparent, give you an example here. I remember, with some of our fellow clinicians that work with us, and certainly our admin assistant, I've had to say, was that a tone? You had a tone with me, and I'm just learning this stuff, and you had like a little tone, and that hurt my feelings. And so he's like, I didn't have a tone. Oh yeah, you had a tone. And so we had to process that and have a conversation. And some of the conversations respectfully have to be, for professionalism purposes, we have to have them away from the people we work with. And certainly when we go into session, we're not always like best buds when we're going into a session. We might have had a difficult conversation or something that happened to one of our kids. And so we're emotional going into that session, but, we really have to pull it together. Sometimes I just, he grabs my hand and we'll pray, or, we just have to do a little breathing before we go in and say, all right, I have a little superwoman pose that I do. Yeah. And then I'm like, all right, I'm ready. And so then we go in and we do the job that we're called to do. But it's not always easy. It's just like if you have a cold and you have to go into session and sit for 60 minutes in front of someone and you're like coughing and hacking. We're human, so we have to still show up every day.
But I think overall, to answer your original question, Lisa, it has definitely enriched our marriage. It has definitely strengthened our bond. We enjoy seeing each other every day. We enjoy saying, okay, hey, I'll see you at the office, and she's taking the kids to camp, and, I'm rushing here trying to get on the Zoom with you. So, I mean, it's just a wonderful, thing to be able to just kind of intertwine our professional life along with our personal life. So I do feel like that the overall impact that it's had on our marriages is that it's definitely made it stronger. Absolutely. And I think because we've had those rough points and we've had to have some difficult conversations, and we work through it. And, that's such a theme in marriage counseling. That's what creates the attachment and the bond. It's not when things are going great, but can you stick it out together? That's what enhances the bond. So I see that absolutely, and know that to be true with Lisa and I.
And one more little known fact, Lisa, if I could add, our oldest daughter is an LMFT, Jessica. She's
Mhm.
another Palmer that decided to pursue this. So, dad certainly not only influenced me, but he had an effect on our daughter too. So it's
Yeah.
super exciting that she's hopefully going to join us one day
Wow.
in our practice.
I was wondering if she worked there. And then if she does work there, will you do family therapy as a family? That would be really cool. Why not?
That would be so cool.
Well, as you guys were talking, I was just nodding my head and saying, "Yes, yes." It's some of the things you were talking about. I see in my own marriage. My husband is not a therapist, and a lot of what you were saying is, I think being in this field makes me a better wife. It makes me a better mom. And I'm always looking at my thoughts, feelings, and actions. And I'm trying to, I'm processing my stuff a lot.
Mm,
And knowing as I've been married longer and longer that I don't have to be right. It's not about being right. It's about mutual respect. It's about unconditional love. It's about, I want to stay in this marriage. How do we figure this out and move forward and not hold resentments towards each other? And
yeah.
I just applaud you both for the work that you're doing. It's really neat, and I think it's super cool. I can't imagine my husband in the therapy. I'm trying to imagine Billy in the room doing therapy with me, and he's so practical and logical. He would be so cognitive behavioral in the room that it would be really interesting. And he has no training at all, and I would never do that to a client. But it just gets me wondering. It's just fascinating, the process of the process. I just keep
Yeah.
going back to it. So I
Mhm.
I want to ask you guys. Well, I have one question that I didn't prepare you for, but I'm really curious what you would say. So let's say we have some folks listening and they really would love to do marriage counseling, but my husband or my wife is not open to going.
Mhm.
What advice or support would you offer them to give them hope, I guess?
Sure. Sure. I think it's a pretty common scenario that we see, that we'll get a call from one of the spouses, and they're really interested in doing couples work, and have shared exactly what you said, that unfortunately my husband or my wife doesn't really want to, or doesn't really believe in counseling, or doesn't think it's going to work. So we've heard a little bit of everything. So what I always try to encourage them to do, and we do this pretty frequently, is hey, why don't you come in and start individually,
Mm.
and just start working on some stuff yourself, and see how that goes. And I know that this is, philosophically, this is different for different clinicians. Some feel like once you start as an individual clinician or therapist with one of the partners, you got to kind of stick with that and then let someone else do the couples work. I'm not quite that rigid about it. And so I think it's all about the relationship. And if you can bring that other partner in and they feel heard and they feel connected, and they don't feel like that there's this alliance that's only with the other partner, it's not always easy, but you have to really, really work hard to engage them as well.
Mhm.
And I've been able to do that. I've been able to kind of create that alliance with the partner that eventually comes in.
Mhm.
What I've also offered too is, say if the wife has come in for 2 or 3 sessions, I'm like, okay, well, why don't you come in and tell me your side? Husband, let me hear from you. I've heard, her side, but I really, really want to hear what you have to say, because I know there's always two sides to every story. And, I don't want you to feel that I don't value what you think or what you feel. And so frequently I'll make the call and I'll speak directly to the husband and or the wife and see if that would, be something that they would be open to. So I'm not at all opposed to trying to engage each of them individually and hopefully eventually get them both into the room.
Mhm.
But I also believe that there are some things that you can do individually that can have some positive impact on your relationship, because
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, I can only truly control my own behavior and take responsibility and show up in the marriage the way that I really want to show up in the marriage. And sometimes that can make a significant change on my partner if I do something differently. And so sometimes those initial individual sessions can give me or give the person some time to really, really reflect on themselves. But, the wonderful thing is, because I'm systemically oriented, I'm still looking at it from the perspective of them being a part of a dyad. I'm still looking at them as being a part of a family. And how do they show up in those different roles? And what are some of the ways that perhaps they can create change, not only in themselves, but within their marriage and their family, just by the things that they change within themselves. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can approach it. But those are typically the ways that I try to engage that. I'm always, letting them know that there's always hope that after they get going, that perhaps their spouse will come as well. And I think the other thing that's really, really important is I think the perception sometimes may be not quite accurate that the spouse who's coming in has of the spouse who has not come in. And what I mean by that is I've been told sometimes like, oh, she'll never come. She's just like so over. And then I speak to the person and it's not quite that. They're very hurt. They're very upset. They're very frustrated. They perhaps did not have a good counseling experience previously. So that's kind of, the dark shadow that's hanging over them. And so once I have that conversation and I develop that rapport, hopefully, oftentimes they're not against it at all. They just don't want to have another bad counseling experience. So that's just one example of how I've seen people kind of have the perception of their spouse that, they just don't want to do it. And then I speak with them and I probe a little bit more and I find out that really what's underneath it is not that they don't want to do it. It's that they don't want to be vulnerable again. They don't want to tell their whole story to another clinician and it just not go well.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely, that resonates with me in cases that I've had in the past. And you just have to be, there's so many things about that, but being patient with the person and the couple, and they will,
Absolutely.
but I love how you reach out and you have that conversation to try to, really put the pieces together to figure out what happened and, can you help? I think that's really great.
And that really, it's so funny how you remember stuff from grad school. And for me, it was a long time ago. And I was in a teaching family therapy clinic that was attached to our program. And so, we would get one of the, and we were big on, we got to get everyone in the room, mom and dad, if, they need to be there. If they're an attacked family, even if there's a separation or divorce, we want to get everyone in the room, so the whole, systemic approach. And so, we'd get one of the parents in and like, oh, he doesn't want to come or he's working. I'm like, do you mind if I give him a call? Sure, buddy. I can tell you now, he's not going to come, and I can't really give you what my track record is and my success rate, but it was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if I called and there was like, just this really engaging conversation and, hey, we really value your feedback. I used, this analogy of we're putting a puzzle together and you've got a lot of the pieces. And so it's kind of hard for us to complete this puzzle without your pieces to it. And yeah, it's pretty good. I'm going to get to my book. And that has worked a lot to engage people. And so I learned back in grad school, and that was required. You got to make that phone call and try to get that other parent in the room because we wanted to be as successful as possible. And we knew we had the best chance of a positive outcome if we had everyone in the room.
Yeah, your grad school experience sounds a lot like mine. That's really cool. I love that. You guys have been such incredible guests. Before we wrap things up, do you have any books or resources that you like to recommend to your couples?
Yeah, absolutely. Valisa, do you want to go? I think you mentioned one.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
one of my favorite books to recommend, I'm going to actually look it up. And you actually probably know the author of His Needs, Her Needs, Reese.
Mm-hmm.
I know that is one of the big books that have helped us in our marriage. And here it's coming up right now. And in the interim, definitely The Five Love Languages by Gary Chapman. That's been a huge help for us. And it's just something I personally relate to quite well. Being a school counselor and having that initially as my background, we did a lot of assessments and a lot of personality tests like the DISC and all types of things. So the love language test is really great for you to just take right at home, download offline. It's free. And that way you can kind of understand how to relate to your partner by understanding the way that they, like if you've like physical touch is one. So I know for sure my husband's first love language, his primary love language is physical touch, and mine isn't. So that way I know that he needs a great big hug at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so that's been super helpful to understand my husband and knowing that that's his love language.
Right.
And so anyway, with his needs, her needs, that book is by, I just pulled it up here. Okay, Willard F. Harley Jr.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really wonderful book about understanding your husband. And there's chapters, or wife, there's chapters in the book for the wife and then also for the husband. And what we learned to do is, as we read the book through, he would highlight in blue things that stood out for him. And then I would go back and highlight in pink. And anything that resonated for both of us would be purple because of the combination of the colors. So you can kind of go back through and say, oh, yeah, we both have that in common. Or, oh, really, that stood out for you. I didn't realize that. And so that men basically have different needs, separate needs from what a woman would have. And so, I just thought that was a really wonderful resource for our marriage. In the beginning, we read that book. You know what else, Reese, was a great book for us when we were dating? Was the book by Robin Smith, Dr. Robin Smith, Lies at the Altar.
Lies at the Altar, yeah.
Yeah. You want to tell her how we came across that book?
Yeah, she was one of those, kind of Oprah Winfrey book club books. And we found out about that through the Oprah Winfrey show. And we looked it up and got the book. And she just tells a really heartfelt story about her own marriage struggles and unfortunately ending in divorce. But what she learned from that and the lessons that she learned from that very painful season in her life was the foundation for the book. And one of the things that we really valued and used this during our dating season is she has a list of over 200 questions that every couple that's considering marriage should go through.
Yeah.
And so asking the hard questions is one of the things that sometimes we avoid when we're dating. And when we think this is the one, this person may be the one, we sometimes, subconsciously avoid the tough questions because everything on paper looks great and we don't want to risk hearing something that might be a deal breaker. And so she says in the book that was what really led to the downfall of her marriage, is that she just didn't ask the tough questions because everything about this guy was perfect. Right. And she realized after the fact there was so much that she did not know about him. And so she avoided those questions. So Dr. Robin Smith, Lies at the Altar, I'm sure you can get it on Amazon, is a great book. As I said, I'm a huge EFT person. So anything by Dr. Sue Johnson. And I think one of the ones that I really like a lot is she made one that is specifically for Christian couples, and it's called Created for Connection. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful book that talks about how we were all created to connect with one another, and that attachment is just the way that we've been, created and wired, if I can use that word. So that's a great one. Hold Me Tight is another really good one. And you see, Hold Me Tight. And there was one other one that I wanted to mention as well, and it just slipped my mind. But those two are really good ones by Dr. Sue Johnson, Created for Connection and Hold Me Tight, 7 Conversations for a Lifetime of Love. Those are two good ones.
Nice. Okay, those sound amazing. Some of those I've read, the Chapman books. I'm a big fan of his work. And there's another one that I would recommend to my soldiers that have been divorced or going through divorce. It was a Chapman book called Things I Wish I Had Known Before I Got Married. Have you guys read that book?
I'm writing it down now. Yeah. Things I Wish I'd Known.
That was a really good book. And then I also like the Gottman stuff, because I think that really gets into it really talks about why, what's going on in the relationship, Absolutely. The behaviors I just think that's some really neat stuff. But sometimes I don't feel like his books, well, no, I shouldn't say that, because they are written for, couples who want to work on their marriage. But I love what you guys have suggested. And this has been such an awesome interview. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you want me to ask, or anything you want to share before we end?
I don't think so. I think you did a wonderful job, Lisa, and guiding us through. And this was our first time doing a podcast together. So
Yeah.
it's pretty painless for us. So we really appreciate that. And once again, appreciate you giving us the opportunity to come on and just talk about what we love.
Yeah.
So, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
this has been great. This actually was my first podcast, and I really appreciate, just how easygoing it was, and I wasn't even nervous. Wow.
Yeah. Well, you guys did great. You might want to think about having one in the future. That would be
I know.
interesting. This has been like I said, such a great interview. I'm so grateful that you two have come on today. Thank you so, so much. And
Thanks.
and if you guys want to reach out to the Palmers, you can find them. Tell us your website one more time.
Yes, it is palmercounsel.com, PALMER, counsel, COUNSEL.com is our website. We're located in sunny Northeast Columbia, 200 Park Lane, and we're in Suite 200. You can reach us at 803-722-4975 or drop us an email at info@palmercounsel.com.
Great. Thank you guys so, so much.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's been such a pleasure.
Well, that wraps up another episode of The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard. I know there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful you've chosen to listen to mine. Be sure to visit lisamustard.com to access the show notes and discover more fantastic content. And I'd be grateful if you subscribe to the show. Thank you.